Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. There is an intriguing, interesting heavyweight fight on at the weekend, and it is between EFE Ajagba and Joseph Goodall of Australia. Now, Ajagba from Nigeria, based in America, 6'6", orthodox fighter, a big old lump, 18 wins with 13 KOs, one defeat, which was to Frank Sanchez in October of 2021. Since then, he's had 3 wins. And before we go any further, let's just mention one thing, and that is that prior to I think his last 2 fights, Ajagba was promoted by PBC. And as we know, PBC fighters very rarely fight. They're very, very inactive, a lot of them, including the heavyweights. You know, people like Andy Ruiz just don't bother fighting, and Wilder hasn't fought for God knows how long. Well, Ajagba was in that category, unsurprisingly. And then he left PBC, moved to Top Rank, and this fight with Goodall will be his second fight against good quality opposition in just over 2 months. So it just shows you, the PBC, I don't know what they think they're doing with their fighters. Their fighters stagnate, and I don't get it. I don't get it. Anyway, moving on. Ajagba, as I say, big lad. We know all about him. In the back end of August, he fought Zan Kosabutsky, who was disqualified in 4 rounds just because he had a touch of the Andrew Galottas about him and just kept whacking Ajagba to what Frank Bruno used to call middle wicket. I think we know what he's talking about. The old meat and 2 veg. So out went Kosabutsky. Really disappointing performance from Kosabutsky, because I thought he had a good chance of winning that. And that was for the WBC Silver Heavyweight title, whatever the hell that is. Now, before that, Ajagba faced a guy called Stephan Shaw, who was undefeated, 18-0. And he won a unanimous decision. And it was, a competitive fight. I mean, I think he won by about 96-94, something like that. And, Shaw gave Ajagba, I think Ajagba won, don't get me wrong, but he gave him, something to think about. By the way, Kosabutsky was undefeated as well. So, those are 2 good scalps. But then Stephan Shaw, he lost to EFE Ajagba. He was on the comeback trail. And who did he fight? He fought Joseph Goodall, Ajagba's opponent, on Saturday. And, Goodall was brought over. He had a 10-1 record. The one defeat was to Justice Hooney. That was in 2022, June 2022. So, he was brought up. He'd done most of his work in Australia, and I think he'd had the odd trip, to fight journeyman in America. But generally speaking, he was an Australian heavyweight. And the Aussies, Australian boxing's flying, but nobody had really paid attention to Goodall, especially after he lost to Justice Hooney. What did he do with Stephan Shaw? He went one better than EFE Ajagba and knocked Shaw out in 6 rounds, which was considered a big upset. And that was in July, I think it's mid or late July of this year. That was his last fight. So the common denominator, the form, Stephan Shaw, Ajagba won a reasonably competitive decision. Goodall knocked him out. Now, that doesn't, of course, mean that Goodall's going to knock out Ajagba. Quite the contrary. But he is a big, strong heavyweight who doesn't do anything bad, doesn't do anything spectacularly. Orthodox fighter, 31 years of age, about 6'5", 6'6", a big, strong guy. And the knock against Ajagba in the past has been that, he is a bit robotic. He is a very, very strong, physically strong man, very imposing, but can be a little bit robotic. I've actually seen improvements in Ajagba. I like the way he's not the most fluid, still not the most fluid of fighters, but he's, a big, strong athlete. I think he jabs more, which is good, always good to see. You hang everything off the jab. He fires some decent 2s and 3s. His footwork seems to have improved. And I think this is probably due to the activity. He's getting more fights. He's getting good activity. Goodall, I have to say, I haven't seen anywhere near as much of Joseph Goodall as I have of EFE Ajagba. But from what I saw against Stephan Shaw, I'm struggling to think if I've ever seen him fight before. I don't think I might have seen highlights of the Justice Hooney fight, which he lost. But he just struck me against Shaw as being someone who is a pressure fighter, very aggressive, likes to throw big individual hard shots. Skill wise, I don't think he matches up with Ajagba. In terms of physical strength, they're both strong. I would say if it gets up close, Ajagba's probably going to be able to outmuscle him. But I don't know. Actually, that's 50-50. I might be wrong about that. And Goodall, by the way, it's worth mentioning, of his 10 wins, 9 are by KO. So the Stephan Shaw thing wasn't an aberration, even though the Shaw fight was a huge jump up in class. He's proved that he can, tag people who are highly thought of and hurt them as well as just your standard journeyman. And also, even if you're fighting journeyman, if you're getting rid of them, I mean, a lot of journeymen, the art is of being a journeyman or a gatekeeper is you go the distance, you go rounds. And if you're wiping them out, that can actually be quite a telling, speak volumes within itself. So I wouldn't rule out Goodall. I think Goodall will be the aggressor. Ajagba will look to, yes, he'll rely on his physical strength up close, but I think he'll probably box a bit more. Probably rely on the jab, land the right hand. He has scored his own, quite spectacular highlight reel knockouts, Ajagba. I'm not sure this will be one of them, but I think Goodall's aggression might play into Ajagba's hands. I think Ajagba, this is a 10-rounder, I think Ajagba will at some point catch Goodall, hurt him, and I would say I'm going to pick a late stoppage for Ajagba here. I think in about 8 rounds, Ajagba eventually catches Goodall, shakes him, buzzes him. He might have to grind him down in the middle rounds, but I see him getting the job done in about 8 rounds. So I'm going to pick Ajagba to win in 8. But again, I haven't seen a great deal of Joseph Goodall, and some of you Australian guys, you can tell me about him if you know more about him than I do. I wouldn't rule him out, certainly wouldn't rule him out, but I'm going to go with what I know, and if I end up with egg on my face, that's fair enough. I'll go with Ajagba in 8 rounds. So what do you think? Leave your comments below. Please tell me about this guy, Goodall, Joseph Goodall. Is he as good as the Shaw fight implied, or was that an aberration? I don't know. Maybe the jury's still out. But you tell me if you know about him. Looking forward to reading your comments. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the like button. As always, thanks for your time, and we'll chat again soon. Bye for now.